How much you charge for that? Well, they send you the sneakers and I charge them 400. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I stay busy with everything.
So we got to work together to make it great. So I got to listen. It is go time. I hope it's go time for you too. Membership is something quality to get in there.
Yeah, you have to.
And welcome to another episode of the Vet Green Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. I am Vet Green, and tonight I have a very special guest. I have Chuckie Campbell joining me for a conversation. For those of you who are familiar with who Chuckie is, then you know he really is the type of, you know what? How can I explain Chuckie? He definitely is a person that you would want to know. That you, if you are in the industry, whether you are someone in education or in the music industry, you definitely want to know. And each time that I've gotten a chance to be in his, I guess, vicinity, I've always gotten the same caring spirit. I've always walked away feeling as if he got it, you know, and it's so unusual being in, you know, this genre of music and coming from a place like Kentucky. I was just talking with Chuckie behind stage and just listening to his music, then you'll see the genres are kind of like mixed in there. You can hear him going hip hop, but at the same time, I hear a little bit of rock. I even hear a little bit of country as I'm listening to some of the music and the wordplay and the fast pace that his words are coming through. Kind of give me that Chicago or West Coast genre. So I'm going to actually go ahead and bring Chuckie on up so we can continue this conversation and let him introduce himself. So Chuckie, thank you again for joining me today. I'm very, very excited. I had a chance to meet you out and about, and you definitely are someone who I'm glad I've gotten a chance to meet, because what I've seen is that you truly do care from an educator point as far and as well as from the music standpoint. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners of the Vet Green Show, and we'll just take it away.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I feel blessed being on here. Thank you, Vet. I'm a artist at Automatic Records. I'm sponsored by 3 Chord Bourbon. I've been doing hip hop for well over 20 years now. And I've been an college educator for well over 20 years. So those two things have kind of wed in spirit over the time that I've been practicing art. And so, man, what could I say other than I'm just incredibly indebted to what hip hop has done for me in my life, and I'm just striving to give back what it's given me.
And it seems like you really are, Chuckie. Like I'm not really at loss for words, but I just want to make sure I hone home on what it is that you really are out here doing, because you are a professor, but at the same time, I see you out there working with artists and trying to make sure, as far as artist development, that people are going down the right road. What caused you to take a step back and be like, you know what, I really want to help nurture some of these artists, because there's really some great music, including your own, out here in the 716. So what took you down that route?
Well, I think more than just being something that, like, as an art form that benefits me, I feel like hip hop is a community and a culture that like no other force I've ever seen in my life. You know, you could talk about literature or film or all this other stuff, but hip hop in itself, just like reaching out in terms of the way it has an influence on the whole human being, you know, from the kind of clothes that you wear, the way that you speak and shake hands with a person, the way you walk, and it animates the human being from its very, from the root of your soul. And so like that, more than just I think maybe being successful myself, I think I want to be able to pass that on, because that was the real gift that hip hop gave me, was the link between people, to be able to take something that's previously only exists inside me, that's internal, and externalize it in a way where another person is able to access it as a bridge, gets past all the false barriers and constructs that we put up about who we're supposed to be, and identities in terms of race, gender, class, sexual orientation, all that stuff. Like hip hop can get through the static and get to the soul. And I feel like that more than anything else is the gift, right? So my objective as an educator, as an artist, and as a man, really, is to figure out a way that I can give that to other people, and let it shape them the way it shaped me, where it gives me purpose and reason and care for my fellow man.
I love how you said that, and I was watching the piece where you talked about, and I may have it's relative to sensory and how people perceive sound. Some people see them as visual, and listening to that piece you did, every word you were saying, I'm picturing it as you're saying it, and I'm like, is that what that is? That you can, as you are saying it, and it seemed like you were very intentional. But what were you intentional with that? The way you were doing that on stage at Buff State? And if you can get into a little bit of that type of teaching.
Yeah, so that song's named Synesthesia, and it comes from like a real world condition that people have where they see sound and hear color. And I started thinking about it one day because I teach a lot about race and identity and language in my profession, and so I started thinking, I was like, well, what would it be like if people were able to crosswire these ideas that we have about who we're supposed to be? And this was right around the time where Barack Obama had just became president. I worked for Obama for America in Mississippi as a voter registration person. And I guess after he became elected, I was inspired to maybe write a song that was post, that decision that America made, because now that we're so far ahead of that that era, it's a very different climate. But I feel like when there was a lot of hope when he was elected. He might have been the first politician that I ever believed in, And hip hop and rap tells us not to really put a lot of faith in politics, and we have our own CNN of the hood, so to speak.
Yes,
so the situation is that was the first politician I ever believed in. I thought it was, that if anybody could have been stepped over that boundary that we had up in this country, I felt like it was going to be him. So, that's what inspired that song. I was thinking like, in a world of, white rappers and black presidents, so like just completely mix that crossroad up,
black, red, blue, and white. I said, you went deep. That's how I'm like, I'm so happy that, I really get to sit down and talk to you, because if anybody goes down the rabbit hole of your music, you can tell you have so many influences. And I mean, and if we're being honest, just looking at you, people would not believe, hey, people would not just believe, they would have to really have a conversation with you to understand the depths of emotion that you really put into your music. And I can, just having, it's different. A lot of times when people think of struggle, they think about Black people, or they think about, a particular type of ethnicity, culture. But the truth of the matter is, a struggle can be in any community. It doesn't matter. And that's part of the challenges that I have just in this, whatever, because it crosses so many lines. We've just been conditioned to think that it just looks a particular type of way. And if a person listens to your music, they can say, oh my God, I've experienced many of the things that Chuckie has experienced. And I'm so happy that you are able to relate that in your music. My question, I guess, is that easy for you to be that vulnerable in your music? Allow, because I think that's a part of the creativity. When you are vulnerable, that's part of what your creative process is. Is that easy for you?
It's definitely not easy. I know that it is what I'm here to do, though, is to serve that the best way I know how. And so a lot of times I spend long amounts of times coming up with these songs. I know a lot of people, it's glorified. They'll jump into a song and they act like, oh, I'm gonna jump in the booth. I did this in 10, 15 minutes. Like I'm never like that. You know, I treat it like my formal training has taught me to write literature, really. Like I might spend months and months and months on a song or a concept. Sometimes I write and rewrite songs. You know, this usually drives my producers crazy because they want to get stuff done. But I think the important part of it is that if it really means something to you and you're going to take this out into the world and you're going to perform it and you're going to animate it into your very being, then it's important what you say. And going back to kind of like what you were talking about before, how that vulnerability can knock down those boundaries. The language that you select can be a bridge. Like I'll never know what it's like to be a Black woman in the world, but I can read Toni Morrison, you know, and she gives me a window into what Black womanhood might be like, and that allows me to get on the inside and see through her eyes for a moment, and then think, you know, how can I apply my humanity to this? And so my job as a songwriter is to figure out how can I make the boundaries that exist inside of people disappear. And for a moment, they forget that they exist in the close circles of the communities that they are exist in, and they remember that they're human.
Yeah, I want to stay here for a moment because that piece that you did at Buff State was just watch it if you have not had a chance. Just watch that because you really go in depth with how we look at race, and it really is something that we have been kind of programmed to think, because at the end of it all, if you open us all up, we really bleed the same, but we've been conditioned to think that, you know, I am this and I am that, when the essence of you is really inside of you. So whatever is on the outside really does not, like, that's just part of the creative part. I think that's just the window into who we really are. But talk to me about music and activism. How do you feel about that?
Well, I try to be as involved as I can out in the community because that is part of the mission of hip hop, you know, like to go out there and uplift the people. And so, you know, whether it's I'm, you know, helping out, you know, someone to push Buffalo, or if I'm, you know, out speaking at a college somewhere and talking to them at Niagara University about race, or Buff State, or if I'm doing the work that I do at Bryant Stratton College, where I'm working with people hands-on and making sure that the message is alive there. I think part of our mission is to make the world a little bit better than we came into it. So, you know, that right there is close to my heart. If anything else, like the music is one thing, you know, but more importantly is that I live up to the standards and the words that I say inside of the music, right? So if there's like right now, you know, a lot of the crazy political state of our country right now, if I refuse to stand up with my brothers and sisters, and you know, that makes every word that I've ever spoke vacant and empty. So when something's happening, I feel a personal responsibility to be part of it.
That's really great that you feel like that, Chuckie, because a lot of people don't. When you are working with artists, you had said that it kind of humbles you. Is that because you remember what it was like in the beginning for you, and then you empathize?
Right. I was largely a young white kid that grew up primarily around you know, black Latino individuals, you know, like out of that low income high crime neighborhood that I was like brought up in, it was those people, you know, not the people that looked like me, that accepted me and took me in, you know. So, you know, before I was an educator, I learned to shoot a mean jump shot. You know, before I was an educator, they took me to the cipher, you know, and that's where I was introduced to the world of ideas. That's where I learned to cut my teeth on what language could do to shape perception, you know. Like, later school became advantageous to me, so I could use some of the things that I learned in these other spaces and bring it to there, and it maybe set me apart a little bit from my peers and my colleagues. But yeah, I feel like those spaces are important. I want to build those spaces, the spaces that were built for me. So like when I'm working with a youth or a kid that's a teenager or like maybe even younger, and I'm teaching them what rap is, I'm not just teaching them rap. You know, I'm talking to them about a way of living and seeing the world and treating other human beings and values that exist inside of this culture, you know. And I do it as a servant, you know, not somebody who is here to make it in my own image, right? I'm here to serve the culture and give back to it. And if I could show that to another person authentically, and then they can create that next chain, that next person that steps up, then I feel like I've done my job.
Talk to me about what artist development should look like compared to what it used to be, because it doesn't seem like that's being done anymore. And I feel like it's with social media, a lot of people don't feel like they need artist development. For some, they may not, but for others, I would say never stop learning. What are your thoughts on that?
Preach. Hey, man, I'm telling you right now, everybody needs artist development. Everyone, even from like your very top artists, but especially the kids today that have big dreams and they want to do stuff with it. You know, these dreams can fuel disappointment if you don't actively work on the other stuff that can get your work out there, right? Like, it's one thing I do work on teaching songwriting, you know, what metaphor and metony is, and syncopation, and talking about cadence and how to deliver, and like song structure, what a coda is, what a verse is, what a bridge is, what a chorus is. Those are all important to like the art of what rap music is. But you can't teach rap music outside of the context of hip hop. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Mm-hmm. So when I'm teaching it in the capacity, let's say at Buffalo Music Club, and bringing in a young kid, I'm also teaching them the history of hip hop. You know, why a specific artist is delivering a message the way they're delivering it, and what's behind that message. You know, what were the social and cultural forces that were causing them to deliver the music the way they were delivering it, and why it is as powerful as it is when it lands. That way it's not outside of them. They don't just see it like a song, right? This is not like, you know, just something that, you know, this is not just like any song that was released. This song, it emerges out of the petri dish of social conditions that created it, you know. And that's what is special about hip hop, right? We're talking about it being the CNN of the hood, right? Like, that doesn't work unless, you know, Public Enemy's talking about real stuff, right? That doesn't work unless, like, you know, this Lupe Fiasco song, Janila Forever, doesn't work unless I tell you that Janila Watkins was a 6-month-old infant that was shot 5 times in Chicago South Side. And that he wrote that song because Janila never got to live her life. He wrote 3 verses of how Janila Watkins grows up to become somebody, and ultimately show us the value of all human life, because one life was taken. It could have affected many. Like, those kinds of things, like, to put the song in context is what gives it its power, right? So my job is to, when I'm working with people and trying to pass on the legacy of this, to explain that in an authentic way, right? Not to strip it of its power, right? Like, give it all of the social context that needs to be there. Now, there's also other things, because we live, whether we like it or not, in a capitalistic, market-driven, corporate society.
Mm-hmm.
And to get your voice heard in this day and age, you can't ignore social media. You can't ignore, the way that data is
Digital.
shared, and yeah, you can't. SEO, you can't ignore. Like, you got to have a website. You have to know how to set up your YouTube account, a Bandcamp account,
Your
maybe
media page, even the way you not to interrupt, but I the way you submitted your stuff over to me was so professional. It made me take a step back and like, wait a minute, like this is, and the images made it so much easier for me to even just put it out there that you were even going to be a guest. That's something that I think also, and I know that you and CJ are both someone that talks openly about. I think that's all part of artist development. I actually came across an artist the other night, Bogustus, who, oh my goodness, it made it. Chuckie, it made it so easy for me to just go down the rabbit hole of his music. I went right to his page. Somebody had shouted him out. I was on 716 Music Reviews with G6er, listening to, I want to see who's hot in the city. Somebody shouted him out or something. I went right to his page. Bam. Was listening to his music the entire day. The entire day.
Yeah. I love that dude, man. Gus knows what he's doing. Because if you hit one of those videos, you're gonna get video after video after video. That's Gus has set it up that way. He's been learning that whole game and trade too. Like, I know there for a while. Like, when he was first learning, like, he's setting up his own cameras and rapping, and then his editing got better, and then and he's always been a crazy spitter. All right, like, so Gus is one of those guys that, like, he shows up and everybody know who Gus is, right? And when he walks in, he's gonna get dapped up by everybody. And I'm talking about the heads that really go hard. And by the end of the night, he might be, kicking something outside to you in your ear on the on the sidewalk. Like, dude he's mean, he's nice, he's not just talented, but he's one of those guys that I'm happy that we have around here. He also knows what he's doing. Like, he's the next guy that these younger kids need to be like looking at.
They really do. And because the radio has been playing so much of the same music, that drill music and stuff, I'm always surprised when I can hear music that from what I was growing up, like the original sound of hip hop, that original sound of rap. I'm always surprised when I can hear that. And listening to Bogustus, I heard that. Even listening to like the I think it's Dream. You going down, dream is but a dream. The way you go into that song and the way you speed it up, it's like and it's like you. When I am on here, sometimes I am in such a flow that I can't. After I come down, it's like, oh, I can't even believe all of that time has passed. Watching you on stage, I got that feeling, and you are in the flow of it, Chuckie. That's how I know that it really is coming from your soul. Everybody does not have certain qualities about them when it's coming through the music. Sometimes it's forced, and you can kind of tell. When it's forced from you, it is flowing from a place of experience. It's flowing from a place of, this is what I have gone through, and this is how I am healing myself, and this is the pain, but I'm gonna create it. Whereas it may have been painful for me, but it sounds beautiful to another person. So that's really what I want to tap into with you. Is that Kentucky to traveling around the world and now landing in Buffalo that brings that type of deep emotions out when you are on stage performing?
For that song specifically, it was because that was during a period of time where I've been traveling around with the band. I think maybe 4 or 5 years, and we was getting ready to drop this album, and it's called "Taking Back Tomorrow." And I remember writing that song. We had come off the road. And on the road, like, because where you travel everywhere, you get a taste of what everybody's kind of doing, And when I came off the road, that was the feeling, right? The feeling was like, you know what? Before, this might have felt like it was not able to get, like we would never make it here, you know? But we got back off that tour, and there was everything just started falling into place. And I was like, you know what? We might be able to make it. You know, I was like, we might be able to get there, and everything was like working for us and firing on all cylinders. And that's, you know, I came back and I wrote that because I was feeling really optimistic. But we had been through a lot to get there. You know, I had damn near sacrificed everything. Had almost, you know, didn't have nowhere to live almost. You know, and then you know, it was a really tough time, you know, in my life, and the only thing that was really working at that moment was the music. And eventually things changed. But you know, that song right there it was about like, okay, what happens when you're going through the struggle? Well, you got to keep going, you know. You got to trust your heart, and you can't give up just because, you know, other people out there feeling however they feel about it. You know, a lot of times the way people feel ain't really about you anyway. Most of the time it's about how they feeling, maybe about themselves, about whatever's going on in the dream of who they believe they are. You know, a person can only meet you to the level that they've met themselves. You know, so like the situation is that a lot of people, when they feel a certain way about things, like, you know, or they're, you know, maybe saying certain kinds of things, you got to know that a lot of times it's not even about you anyway. You know, a lot of it is just other people are dealing with their own world, you know. And so I don't know, that song specifically about me brushing it off a little bit.
That's definitely one of my favorite ones. What about collaborations? I know as artists you are always constantly in the booth, but not necessarily putting out any music. Do you have any collaborations that you're currently working on, or any new music that will be dropping soon?
Man, I got all this music, and I have 6 songs that I've done with my previous producer, Willie Breeding, and they're kind of locked up right now. We can't do anything with him because he signed a deal with Atlantic Records, and we're not sure what's going to happen with them songs. But I got that song. I got a song with Dave Stewie on there. I got a song with Aisha Green's on there. You know, I mean, God, it's a shame if we're not going to get this thing out, you know. And then I got 6 more songs with a producer named Poe Mack, or he goes by Byron Mack. He's from Virginia.
Okay, I noticed that you work with different producers outside of the city.
Yeah. No, a couple of years back, I dropped something, Shadows Resembling God, with One Word. He's from San Francisco, or the Bay Area. You know, I met all these people like through touring and through, you know, kind of moving around the country. So a lot of them are super talented people, and you know, they've been instrumental in me helping me create my sound, or even be bouncing out of a sound and taking on a new moniker, you know.
How important is it, Chuckie, to network and meet other people in the industry?
It's everything, you know. Like if you're not out there and you're not meeting people, shaking hands, you know, and talking to people, this is not something you can do on your own. It's like you're building something that's bigger than yourself. If you look at it that way, then you're more likely to create the relationships that mean more, right? Like the things that I've been able to do are because I got many hats in different places. You know, like I'm able to tour not just because of the kind of music that I make. I'm able to tour because I know I've been other places and been a part of their scene and showed reverence and rock with them. You know, like I've jumped on tours and drove the car, you know, been the vehicle that drove the people from place to place, right? Just to say, hey, if you give me 15 minutes, you know, I'll drive all the way around the country, right? And just give me 15 minutes. And then in that 15 minutes, you know, I started a long time ago building 1, 2, 3 fans at a stop, you know. And then eventually, you know, every time I did a tour and circled back through that area again, guess who showed up?
Your fans.
Yeah. 2 or 3 other people. And then they bring 2 or 3.
I'm sorry. What could you offer to some of the artists out now that are struggling just to try and figure out, you know, what route they have to go? Whether it's because it seems like you have to get outside of your normal surroundings in order to do that, but a lot of them don't. What would you offer to them for those who don't? Because I think it's important.
I think you gotta stop depending on like the big, like you gotta stop thinking that somebody's going to discover you, number 1. And then number 2, you gotta stop depending on other people to open doors for you, right? Like most of the time, you know, and this is where resentment comes from, because people that are super skilled, right? They're like, oh man, you know, they feel some kind of way because their skills aren't being represented. And in one way, they're right, you know, but there's more to it than just being skilled, right? Like what we were talking about, like this is not just music, you know, like it is a community. It is a culture. You are deciding your proximity to the center of that culture every time you decide that someone else should be doing you a favor. Like you're gonna have to be the culture, right? You gotta, if you see a vacancy or a space that's not filled and that should be filled, well, it might be up to you to start wearing that hat, you know? Like you might need to be the person that brings the accent or the artists in that are rocking for all the people that need to see that music, right? Like, you know, like to bring in an EPMD, you know, is more than just to say, I want the people who like the EPMD's music to show up at a show in Buffalo to watch EPMD rock, right? What it is that you're also disseminating the influence of EPMD and the kind of hip hop that they made back into the culture, and cycling that back in to the dialogue, right? We got a lot of young people that don't know who EPMD was, or don't know that, like, they don't know the roots of it, the roots of the culture, the way it's developed over the history of it, you know? Like that's important. You have to know what it's coming out of if you're going to reflect that, you know? They can't, if they don't have the tools to reflect it, and society is not going to give you those tools, because let me just be real, hip hop arises out of a marginalized population of people.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be part of the dominant discourse. They're not going to tell you what hip hop is. You know what? You're going to hear from the corporate market, from capitalism. What you're going to hear what hip hop is they're going to say, they're going to distort the values. Hip hop is violent. It's criminalized. It's, you know, it's misogynistic. It's, you know,
all negative.
Yeah. You ain't going to hear, oh, hip hop as a bridge in the community and it's about love. Yeah. They don't want to play Tribe Called Quest, right? They don't want you to hear that.
KRS-One either.
Right. They're not trying to give you that knowledge, right? So that's what I'm saying though. Like, and that's why I love what CJ is doing in Villa, because that's the seed. Those are the seeds we need to sow. You know, when you see these kids out here, it's not that, you know, drill music is inherently bad, but it does render things that aren't good too, right? Like, so yeah, we can't just blame art for the outcomes that some of the things that have been kind of superimposed on, you know, our the problems in the community, but to a certain extent, we also have to be cognizant of our messages, you know, because our messages do influence people. And so I guess if I were to feel one kind of way you know, people can make any kind of music they want because this is art. That's what you should be able to do. Whether you throwing paint on the canvas or, you know, whatever it is that Jackson Pollock was doing, you know, like whatever it is, you should be able to do it. But you also should be thinking about what effect this could have on other people, because art is also a form of communication. It's not just, you know, whatever. So
the impact. Oh, go ahead.
No, you good.
I was thinking about some of the drill music that's out there. When I listen to it, for me, because I'm always listening for a story, I can hear so much pain from these young men. You can hear, and you can really hear about their childhood, how they grew up, and it. I mean, the mom in me just makes me, you know, just want to hug them and love on all of them. But the reality is, this really has shaped a lot of, like we can talk about the Sexy Reds and I mean, she's not drill music, but we can talk about what she's saying. But that came from somebody, whether she wrote it or not. That came from that is somebody's experience. You can't write like that without that actually being somebody's experience. I mean, you can put things together, but it's still coming from a place, Chuckie. And I feel like you understand that it's coming from a place, and that's probably why it comes out in your music. You also did a TEDx.
Yeah.
How was that, and what brought that about?
Yeah. So I used to, there for a minute, I was being booked by Tony Cafaro, who ran Deep Thinker Records. He used to be, Deep Thinker used to be, people slept on Deep Thinker, man. Deep Thinker was one of the longest running underground hip hop record labels in Buffalo. And so, you know, birthed, you know, Idris and Mad Dukes. I mean, come on, man. There's a guy, I bow to these guys. But the situation with Tone, when he started working with me, he just really good at like finding opportunities, you know? And so he found the TEDx opportunity. He says, you know, I think you'd be perfect for this talk, because we could, you know, you get up there, just act like you're teaching class. And that's kind of what we did, you know. And then I brought the band on behind, and had them, but it was really cool because they had this big screen and they projected the music video behind me onto the screen, and then you had the band playing, and they gave me like this, I never have a wireless mic for whatever reason, but they gave me this wireless mic so I could walk around with the mic. And so it was all these kids. They filled up the whole spot up with all these kids. I mean, these kids were young too. A lot of them were, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And then you had like, I think a rower group that were older, maybe like late middle school, you know, 8th grade. And then you had high schoolers. And as you know, like the high schoolers are too cool. And the middle schoolers, right? Like they're kind of like, they'll mimic kind of what the high schoolers are doing, because they like, oh, these the older people kind of, they think they know what they're doing. But the little kids, man, it was rocking, you know. So after I got the little kids going, you know, everybody loosened up a little bit. Then I got the hands going and stuff like that. So, no, that was a good experience, because I got to speak for 20 minutes on race and identity and language as a social barrier. And then I got to rock with them, which was even more fun.
I love that you go out and you speak on topics such as race, because although it's a concept, I think that's how you explained it. It's something that we see it. I mean, here we are today, and this is why we are where we are today.
Yeah.
I'm just like, but it's good that we have people like you and I that know it's so much big. Like, I don't know what your beliefs are, but I'm just like, if there's rainbows out there, why do we not think that it is this world is just this beautiful rainbow, including the music that's in it? I feel like the music that is just a melody of what is going on in the world. So More Die of Heartbreak. Talk to me about what was going on with that title. What was going on in your life because I believe that, I mean, the title, More Die of Heartbreak. I think that heartbreak, especially as you get older, I believe people tend to pass more from that than anything. I mean, you have your illnesses and stuff, but I really feel just seeing, you know, the world as it is right now. Talk to me about what was going on with More Die of Heartbreak.
Well, so there's a lot going on there. All right, so originally the title was based off a Saul Bellow book of the same name, and so the way that I conceptualized the album is every song on the album was a type of heartbreak that I had went through up to this point in my life. And so in 2004, I was attacked in a street fight, and my jaw was broken in 2 places, and I had done hip hop all the way up to about that time in my life. I had just moved back from Nashville, Tennessee, because me and my producer had moved there to try to see if we could make some waves in the industry and, you know, do our thing. And we had kind of retreated from that and came back to my hometown, or our hometown. And I had, you know, there was a disagreement between me and one of my friends, and he always had mental health issues. And back then we didn't have the language for mental health, right? Nobody knew, you know, what was happening or what was going on with mental health. Like, I guess I had seen things that he had done in the past or whatever, and they were questionable or whatever, but I never thought of them in a particular way or judged them in a particular way, because I, you know, like I said, there was just no language for it, right? Like, and when I became
for mental health issues, we didn't, especially depending on where you were, it just was not spoken about. It just was not talked about.
Especially where I was from, right? Like, I was one of the only white guys there. There's like, so like in the Black community, right? Like, a lot of guys, they won't even talk about the feelings at all.
Even today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know, so like, I remember it was just, I don't know, it was bad. So like, I got my jaw broken in 2 places. After that happened, my mouth was wired shut for period of maybe almost half a year, because
you didn't rap for 7 years after that. You said 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years. So I basically took that energy and then moved back into the educational space. My producer moved to New York City. He started doing stuff up there, and then many years later, you know, after I had, I guess, worked as a teacher, got my master's, and then moved to University of Southern Mississippi. I worked in the McNair Scholars Program down there. So I helped like underrepresented first generation college students get into you know, the big programs, PhD programs, master's programs. And I graduated a 5-year program in 2 years. And right after I graduated, my producer linked back up with me. He was like, "Man, you ever think about doing music again?" You know, and every now and again I would, because I was always writing. You know, I would like write a rap or something like that, but I would never share it with anybody. You know, it was just me. And then my friend that we were talking about before, he committed suicide. And after he committed suicide, I was just in a place like where I would come home after teaching, and instead of like writing papers or research, like I couldn't write anything but rap music. It was a strange time in my life, but you know, something was moving me to that purpose, you know. And I like to tell people it wasn't post-traumatic stress disorder. It was post-traumatic growth. Instead of like my trauma informing me to shut down, my trauma made me, you know, react in like a hyper vigilant fashion, you know. So instead of just doing a little bit, like I couldn't stop producing work. And before I knew it, I had a mixtape, I had all kinds of stuff that I had done. I had written all this music, and I somehow garnered up the confidence to release it. And I was scared to death at the time because academia at the time was a little bit more stringent. You know, they didn't, you know, it was taking a big risk in my profession, my discipline, or my field to admit that I was a rapper, because rap was not studied or looked at the way it is now. Now you have your Lupe Fiascos at MIT, you know, there were no Nas's at Harvard, or, you know, there weren't, none of that stuff was going on. So like, I was afraid that I was gonna lose my job, you know, especially when one of my songs went viral. I entered it into its Grammy amplifier contest, and it got more amps or plays and views than any other song in the contest of any other genre. The winner was supposed to perform at the Grammys, you know, and it ended up the song got disqualified because it had sample in it. But
wow.
Yeah, it was wild. The whole, I mean, it went viral. Like, seriously, like, people from my hometown were like, they were just sharing and sharing and sharing and just listening to it over and over and over. And yeah, it was a big letdown, but that was, I guess, the beginning of something bigger than me, you know, because it had given people a reason to actually look at what I was doing. I guess previously before, like, it's almost like you have to, people outside of you, or outside of the people that know you, like, those people have to confirm to other people that you're worth or you're valuable to enough to listen to. You know, like
it's so weird, but
so when other people like started writing articles about me or saying the song is good, or I started winning awards, or, you know, those kinds of things started happening, then the people that had watched me grow up was like, oh, well, maybe I should listen to it, you know, or those people started showing up to shows, and I was like, you know, that's a weird feeling. But then, like I was saying, like, you know, people can only meet you to the extent that they met themselves, right? Like, so at that, there might have been something in them that didn't want to admit, you know, somebody from where we're from did something that was worth it or valuable enough to listen to, or you know.
I'm so happy that you talked about that, because that is definitely one of the questions that I had for you myself on a personal level, just because I know that you've traveled around, and me not traveling as much as you have, the experience that I've been able to gain just about people, it has been useful for me. So that was one of my questions. It seems like even as you elevate, you still have to meet people where they are. It doesn't even matter. I feel like for a very long time, I thought that, you know, if you had, you know, certain material things, then you have all the knowledge, you have it all together, but that's really not accurate. Would you agree, Chuckie, that you have to meet people where they are?
For sure. Yeah. No, all that other stuff is like external validation, right? Like that's what our society and capitalism, a lot of this stuff, it points our energy outward. When we look out to the world for answers about who we are inside, often there will be answers. They'll tell you, but most of the time they'll be like the wrong answers, right? They'll say, oh, you need the big house on the hill, you need the Ferrari, you need the Jordans, right? You like the young man who's got like a stack of money to his ear, right? Like, to me, that's not power, right? Like, honestly, that looks like insecurity to me, right? But what is he modeling? He's posing power, right? Like, the stack of money is like, look, you know, I'm from nothing. This is what something looks like to me, you know? But you don't see like a Mark Zuckerberg or, you know, Bill Gates doing this, right? A lot of that comes from deprivation, right? Like, how deprived have we been to understanding value? Like, true value happens on the inside. You look inward. That you're valuable today because you took a breath, because your heart is beating, because beyond any other miracle that in this universe, somehow you woke up. And that alone makes you valuable. That makes you worthy of love. That makes you worthy of other people's love, this gives us a set of standards and a framework for understanding the world differently, right? When you feel empty inside and you're looking outside for the answers, the world's going to give you those answers, but they're going to be the wrong ones, because that house on the hill, that house is nothing if it's not a home. That Ferrari is really just a status symbol that's meant to fill up the emptiness on the inside. You know, some of us, we worship money, right? Because money is the exchange. We confuse the exchange for goods and services for the thing that it's exchanged for. You know, really, we want respect, we want love, we want loyalty, friendship. We want, yes. Those are the things that should be drivers, right? You know, in terms of meeting people where they are, those are the things that we should be bringing to that situation, right? A lot of us can't see people for who they actually are, because we're looking at their external value, right? What could this person do for me? And that's the wrong question to be asking. That person is valuable beyond that. And so once you if you can erase that boundary, right, which is really hard because we live in the kind of society that we live in.
Yeah.
And you can speak to a person like a human being, then that opens up a whole new world, right? Like when I listen to you know, these young kids when they rap, you were talking about it earlier, right, with the drill music, right? I hear someone deeply scarred and in pain.
Yeah.
Right? What produces that? You know, what makes that individual who they are? Because art doesn't happen in a vacuum. It emerges out of the social and cultural conditions in the world. What else would it emerge out of? Right? It's just, that's this person is expressing something from a context that it makes sense in the world. And yeah, we have a duty to meet people where they are and be of service to them, you know?
I think being a servant first is more powerful than anything else, because then you are doing what I feel like we are all meant to serve. And if we think from that concept, like instead of greed, we've gotten so far away from humanity because of greed. I feel because it's just so much I can say about that. I just feel like we are just humanity. We need each other right now, and we need more of. I want to play a little bit of the song, but I want to encourage anybody who is watching to look at that piece that Chuckie did at Buff State, and you talk about. You go in and talk about the what is it again, Chuckie? The name of the condition where you see the sounds and you hear the sounds. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. No, you see sounds and hear color. It's called synesthesia. Yes, synesthesia. It crosswires the senses. Actually, there's many people after I made that song. They came up to me. They came up to me afterwards and they would speak to me, and like they actually had the condition or didn't know what the name of it was. You know, I've had that happen several times, getting the conversations after the shows and stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that, and this is kind of off topic, do you think that with the onset of the internet, people are now able to find more people like a Chuckie Campbell that can explain, you know, what has been going on with them for a lot of their lives?
Yeah, the potential's there. Yeah. I mean, I do worry about, you know, the way that these platforms are set up. You know, I worry that lots of things get buried that should be heard. You know, especially if I'm thinking about like Spotify. You know, like they're definitely not paying artists. You know, there's a lot of worries that I have, but I do see a difference. You know, if I go back 15 years, you're like the chance of being seen was so much less. You know, like you had to be killing it. You had to be out there on the road nonstop in front of people, like going from. You had to be, yeah. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, compared to now, it's. What do you think? If what would you suggest to someone who is just starting out? Because a lot of them, I feel, don't understand the need to be on social media. I myself, on the podcasting side, did not understand the need to really be on social media, because this is where you find your fans. This is social media. Gone are the days where, I mean, you can still go out and be in the physical, but you have to also be in this digital world, which a lot of people are afraid of. They're intimidated by, but you still need to be able to do that. If you are an artist, you should have, your page should look like Bogustus. When you are emailing somebody, it should look like Chuckie Campbell's, and even your page. So what would you suggest to someone just starting out?
Yeah, no, you have to set all that stuff up. That's one of the things that I work with them kids at the Buffalo Music Club. I'm like, we start off, I try to help them define their goals. Like, what do you want to do with this? What are you trying to do? I ask them a series of questions, and then I'll get the answers back. And then from there, usually what I'll do is I'll help them create that digital footprint together. We'll create all of that stuff, like logo. We might. It depends if they got a song or an artist pen name. Sometimes I'm helping them create a pen name. If they don't want to go by their actual name, sometimes we're creating a whole branding construct for them. Like starting from bio, short bio, long bio, then one sheet, an interactive PDF that has everything on one sheet that someone could click on, and it's going to take them to other places for the artist, right? To a website, to Facebook, to X, to Instagram, to Snapchat, to man, I'm forgetting
TikTok and all of that.
Right. TikTok is the one right now. If you're doing music, you got to be on there. Okay? And that's the one too, though, that, I mean, if you get your stuff out there on TikTok, it has like a major chance of blowing. It does. Like, people listen to that stuff, and then the algorithm's so powerful in there. If you like one thing, it comes back to you. All the time. It's just figuring out what you like. So
TikTok is wide open right now. I tell anybody, you have to find your niche on TikTok. But once TikTok knows what you like, it is sending it right your way, and it's sending the people your way as well. Yes. I really enjoy TikTok. It's the fastest growing, I see. Mm-hmm. You really don't, as long as you are engaging with your audience, it's been my fastest growing platform. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Definitely. What as you were going through life as a young boy and journeying into teenage and then on to lifing as an adult, did you ever think that this would be you, that you would be this engrossed in music?
I mean, I don't know, actually. Like I was involved in hip hop so young that it was kind of very formative for me. So like maybe when I was 12, 13 years old, I probably was also thinking in my head that this is who I was going to be later, but somewhere along, like, as you get older, like the world starts to get its fangs into you, like telling you who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be. And so, like, I think by the time I was in middle school and high school, I was imagining myself as a basketball player. Right? And then, it wasn't till later in my life that I didn't realize that, basketball was an amazing thing for me because it gave me social mobility. It took me, I don't know if I went to college. I'm a first generation college student. So no one in my family had ever been to college before me. And so my grandmother she had like an 8th grade education, like my parents are hardworking people, but they didn't get a college education, and super smart people, but never went that route. And so basketball, I didn't see it at the time, but really my journey, like basketball brought me to college. I thought it was different. I thought I was there just to play when I was there. And then over the 4 years that I was there playing basketball, like people took an interest in me. They're like, oh, you're not really just a jock, are you? Like you like these other things. You're interested in these ideas, And then I had mentors that stepped up, and Dr. Matthew Melton was one of them. He kind of mentored me and helped me through things. And by the time I got to the end of my first bachelor's degree, I was set up to go play professional basketball. And he planted the seed in my mind, you should go get a master's degree. He's like, you're smart enough to do it. He's like, and I was, at the time, of course, like, I just brushed it off, but it stayed there. He planted that. And later it ended up growing. Becoming something else.
He saw something in you.
That's what it did.
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's what we got to see in these young people, right? You don't realize that, like little small things like that. It doesn't have to be huge. You come up to a kid's having a bad day, you just let them know that they're special and they're valuable. You don't need to say too much. But if you meet them where they are, you could plant something in their heart that later blooms into something bigger than them.
Those are the best type of teachers. I'm sure a lot of us remember that one teacher, that special teacher that was able to plant a seed to help us grow that we needed. They were planted there to help us, and I'm sure, Chuckie, that you are that for many people. So you've worked with some legendary artists such as Talib and Ras Kass. How was that before I let you go? And I want to play this video as well, but I wanted to let the time go by. How was that working with them?
Yeah, Kweli was great. Kweli was awesome. So we had some of those lectures or whatever that I was involved in. Over race and class and stuff like that. It would take me to New York City and all that other stuff. I ended up meeting the people that I needed to meet to hook up with Kweli on a song. And previously I did the first version of Synesthesia that landed on More Die of Heartbreak. And then he at the time was dealing with some beef with some like white rappers, And I was like, this might be a perfect opportunity for you to like handle this and not handle it, like kind of handle it, And so we made like a little remix of the beat and then sent it over to him. And he did that. And then Ras Kass, I had met Ras Kass several times over the course of 2 years. So the first time I met him was at South by Southwest with the band. We hung out with Ras Kass, I'd say 3 or 4 hours, right? We were involved in we played early on in the day, and then Raz and Ghostface and a bunch of other people played like later on in the night at Karma Lounge at South by Southwest. So the guys loved this, right? They were hanging out with Big Pun's son, Chris Rivers. And so like we were down there like hanging out with like rap royalty, like I'm a big fan of Raz, his music, right? Like Nature of the Threat, Soul on Ice, right? Which I've read Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver, right? Like I read and Cleaver was, pretty amazing, not just activist, but if anybody's never read Cleaver's book, that's a book to look up. Eldridge Cleaver, Soul on Ice. After you get through the first chapter, it's gonna blow your mind, right? Cleaver, I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not gonna tell you. But Ras Kass named one of his older albums after that, and then one of my favorite songs ever was Nature of the Threat, which was almost a 5-6 minute hip hop song that like rewrote the idea of history, like outside the lens of white supremacy. And then, so as a white person coming from like, mid-America listening to that song. I always wanted to tell him, you know, what it did to realign my perception. You know, so I got to tell him that. I got to shake hands with one of my heroes and talk to him. And then later on that year, like I was saying, we was catching steam, right? So we ended up at A3C in Atlanta, Georgia, and we had just performed at the same show he was performing at. But this time you had like Crooked Eye and a bunch of other people who was on the same bill. And so we were rocking the, you know, whole, that it was so hot in that little Atlanta bar. We were like, everybody's in there like sweating through their clothes. And then, as often happens in like the South, we walked outside, and you know, a clear night turned into like a monsoon. Like it rained so hard, like the rain was coming down. And so I couldn't, you know, everybody else is like running to the truck, and instead, like, I got trapped in a car with Raz Kaz. We were trapped in the same car, and it was raining so hard, you know, for like 2 hours. We were just sitting.
Wow, conversating.
Yeah, so that's the second Raz Kaz story I had that year, and then I had reached out to his agent at the time, because his agent was in the car with us too. So he got to meet me, and I guess previously as well, like he was dating this other girl that he was with. I don't know if it went anywhere, but she was in the car too. But so we just sat in there and we were just talking and connecting and stuff. And then maybe a month after I got home, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna shoot my shot. You know, closed mouths don't get fed. I'm gonna send over this song, right? And this song was named Power. And me and Mad Dukes had been in the studio together, and Dukes did the chorus and laid down a verse. And then I had been working about halfway through my verse, and then I wouldn't finish it. So I was just, you know what, I'm just gonna send this out there, see what happens. And then he got back to me immediately. He's like, oh man, we can make this happen. He's like, you know, forward this email over to my agent. We did all the paperwork and all the stuff that was necessary, and he must have did it in like 2 days.
Oh wow! How did that feel, knowing that he took the not the bait? Well, he recognized talent right away. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, no, it was great because he's one of my heroes. Like I said, like, you know, like that right there was just confirmation that I was doing something right. You know, we got that in there. Because Raz is on the same album as To Live, so we had Kweli and Raz Kaz on that album. You know who else was on that album was Kadir Latif. I don't know if you know who Kadir is. Q. Oh man, you got to talk to Kadir. Kadir is one of the, in my opinion, dopest rappers from Buffalo. And Kadir was on Rough Riders for a while before DMX passed. He was rocking. Yeah, he was rocking with Rough Riders. They did 2 or 3 videos with him. He got this I think it's an album. It's either an album or a mixtape. It sounds like an album, but it's Voice of Biggie, Mind of Malcolm. And Kadir sounds like, well, I wouldn't say he sounds like anybody, but you know, let's be real. You know, Kadir kind of sounds like Biggie Smalls a little bit, right?
I cannot wait to get off. So I mean, yeah. I'm not right. I'm like, what?
I promise it will not disappoint. Kadir's that good.
Is
and
it
he's like
K or a Q, Chuckie?
Q. So it's QUADIR LATEEF.
Yeah. Pull it right up.
Yeah. Rough Riders. The dude is amazing. And he's God, man, I'm blanking on the name right now, but like this dude was involved. He went down and from when Occupy Wall Street was going on, when the stuff it wasn't Million Man March, but it's one of the other ones that happened from one of the more tragic black killings. I think it might have been Mike Brown or something.
Oh, damn.
But I know he was he was deeply involved in that. He showed up to these protests, walked the walk, was rapping. I mean, his stuff was going viral because the dude is like, he's not just a lyricist, man. He's a storyteller. He's gifted. So I could talk about him all night.
Definitely going to thank you for that drop. So
yeah, he's on there.
I love music. I'm like you, Chuckie. It just has to move me. I love music. It does not a lot of genres. I just enjoy the message that comes from the music, you know, and if it can reach my soul, it can hit my soul. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I do want to leave out playing one of Chuckie's song. Chuckie, thank you again for joining me tonight. I really, really appreciate everything. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. Looking forward to having you on again. I have to do it like this.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, this is, man, it's when you can have a great conversation and learn something at the same time, it's a win for me. Why is my screen not? Oh, I am having some technical difficulties now. It does not want me to share my screen. Okay, here we go. Is it sharing? Yeah. It does not want to. Make sure y'all go out and stream Chuckie Campbell. I'm having some technical difficulties right now.
It's okay.
I appreciate you for joining me tonight, Chuckie. I really do. Your music is phenomenal. Continue doing what you are and spreading the message. Definitely need more of those messages. This world is cray right now. I am doing everything I can to stay sane, and I hope that you are too, because you are out here dealing with our children in these schools and adults in these schools. So what would you like to leave the listeners of the Vet Green Show with tonight as we close this out?
First of all, I'm grateful and blessed. Thank you so much for inviting me on and allowing me to talk a little bit about my favorite topic, hip hop and music and language, and all of that stuff that we got to discuss today. In terms of our next moves, you know, people be on the lookout. I'm gonna be around Buffalo performing a little bit.
Yeah.
So
are you going back to the Cavs?
Go ahead.
Are you going back to the Cavs at all?
We'll see how that works out. I'm gonna talk to them at least for a couple of dates this year. That's a really, really super nice venue. They put so much work into that place. You know, I try to pick and choose my days wisely because you want them to land well where everybody will be free to get there. So I'm gonna see if I can get a couple of dates in.
Yeah, I have not been there yet. I wanted to get there, but it's close. That's why I'm like, I like that. It's close, so that is doable.
Yeah, I'll let you know for sure. I mean, I got some things on the table that I'm currently juggling. It looks like maybe in May I might be making a move, and we're gonna do some shows over in Europe. So we got probably like 7 to 10 dates over there. So I'm gonna go over there and do some work over there, and then come back and do some recording and maybe some local shows. And me and CJ are trying to put together a number of shows to build up Villa the way properly it should be done.
That was my next question. When is the next event at Villa? Is it going to be monthly, or is anything changing up? What's going on with the Hip Hop Creative Alliance?
We're currently at the point like we're going to do a monthly, but right now I think CJ's he just had eye surgery or something, so that's what's holding that up a little bit. We're going to wait until he's back on his feet totally, and then I have New Orleans based artist Alfred Banks, who's done Volkswagen commercials, all kinds of stuff. Performed at the Pelicans games. he's an amazing guy. And then we have, who else were we looking at? Man, I sent him all kinds of stuff.
I know John Jiggs is I got a chance to meet him and interview with him, and he's over in Europe right now. So I am just so excited to see that it's possible, because I feel like we think that mainstream is the only way that artists are really getting their name out here, but that's really not true. There's people out here touring right now. They just aren't right.
And some of their music is better. Right. That's the thing.
Seriously.
You know?
Seriously.
The dates in Europe are, hold on, let me see. Sorry if I'm holding you up.
Oh,
it's
no,
Athens. It's Athens, Greece on the 22nd. Thessalonica, Greece. I don't know how to even pronounce it. Geneva, Switzerland. Basel, Switzerland. Zurich, Switzerland. That one in Zurich is going to be great. It's got Fabulous and Cassidy. It's a big festival, so that's going to be great. Luzerne, Switzerland. Munich, Germany. And I think those are the only ones that I'm going to do, because I get that takes up my week 4 part of my semester, so I have to get back. Otherwise, yeah, I can't let these kids be without me too long, right? I gotta keep them in the pocket, you know. So
how do you balance that, Chuckie? How do you balance your regular career with your passion? Well, they both are your passion, it seems like. So how do you balance that? Because for me, multitasking it does not work. I have to focus on one thing and then go to the next and focus on that. Trying to focus on too many, I'm overwhelmed. How do you manage that?
I'm lucky that I'm surrounded by lots of kind, generous people. First of being Chantel Michaud, who's my wonderful girlfriend. She's everything to me.
I love that, you guys. You two remind me of Danger the Boss and his woman. When they're out, when you see Danger, you see her. When you see you see her. And I love that, because you have to understand your partner in this industry. And I love that she's out and about with you, seeing what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, no, she's my number one teammate. You know, like she's on the same page, and she mirrors and reflects all the best parts of me, and is honest and loves me enough to tell me when something's not in my best interest. So, you know, that's someone who really, you know, you have to invest in the people that also invest in you. And, you know, I love her more than anything in the world. So I definitely, you know, her, I gotta speak highly of, because she makes this run from, like, every time I'm on a tour, she's booking hotel rooms and supporting me from afar, making sure there's no issues and problems at home. She's my rock, so she takes care of me. In terms of, there wouldn't be a Chuckie Campbell without Chantel. In terms of other people, Chris Blum at Bryan and Stratton College has for years supported me. Didn't have to support me if he didn't want to, you know. We had a liberal enough vision to be able to look at what I was doing as something that could be beneficial, not just for me, but to the students and to the overall community of the college, So instead of like pushing out this side of my personality or saying, hey, why don't you just not do that? He was, you should hold something for the students, like an open mic, or you should, do some slam poetry, or you should, really incorporate this stuff in your lessons. This guy was encouraging me. And, without kind people like that, I don't think you end up getting someone like me. I think you end up having, someone maybe more afraid to cross those lines or those boundaries, but have people pushing me instead of holding me back. So I was lucky to have those people around me. I want to mention John Washington, because no matter what, all through all these years, it's got to be at least 10 years now. John Washington, every time John Washington sees me, talking to me about music and encouraging me and telling me, like the next big thing that's coming up in the community, like what's happened politically, what's happening. I mean, that guy right there is a gem, should be valued in our community. People should give him his flowers right now. So there are definitely certain people, and I could probably keep going for a very long time here, but there's been definite people for me, and I couldn't do it without it.
It really does help to have the right people around you. I realize when you are trying to be successful at something, because there's going to be times where you don't have it in you, and you need someone to, encourage you, motivate you, tell you that you can do it. Because when you go out and face this world,
right. Right. I remember when the top shooting happened, and instead of doing nothing, Dr. Blum comes up to me and says, you need to hold something for our students out in the student lobby. Like he came to me and asked, like that's a different person right there. He could, because he's in a position where like it probably would benefit him not to say nothing, but instead he cares about the mental health and the grieving that was happening in our community, right? At over 85% of our students are female and Black at Rogers Strait College. You're
That's
thinking what's happening.
Yeah,
what's happening in that community, after a shooting like that. And so he pushed me to do that. My girl, right? Like at any point, like she could be like, it would be better to have you home. Like she could, it would be better if you stayed here with me and the kids right now. But then she's not doing that. She's like, you know what, you need to go out there and give the world your gift, and even when I don't believe in me, she believes in me. So
that's how you found your soulmate, Chuckie. When you have that, when you have somebody that can push you and hold you up when you are just ready to fall down, that's how you have definitely found your soulmate. So big up to the people who are out here pushing and motivating people like us, because it's not easy. And it's not easy dealing with a creative. I sometimes cringe about myself. It's not easy dealing with the creative, but when you have good people, you definitely want to nurture those relationships. Because it is. And one more question I want to ask you. In light of everything that has come down with the Jay-Z's and the Diddy's and all of the allegations, what are your thoughts based on just your experience in this industry? Because you've been, in the music industry, and I don't want anybody to think just because, you have to have millions of dollars to know what is really going on. What are your thoughts on all of these allegations?
First of all, money and power can do terrible things to people. Now I've been around people and in rooms where things are not right, that you know something's not right, something's not going right, but you feel and know that, you know, doing the right thing actually gets you outcast by the people around you. And I walked out of a number of rooms like that in my day. And I took the route that I took because I knew that I could be a good person doing that, right? Being like, if I create it on my own, if I do it my way, then I'm free of some of the pressures that comes with like maybe being on a label or being successful or being commercially viable in a specific way. So I have to admit, I have to say this. I don't know what it's like to be Jay-Z, or I don't know what it's like to be, you know, Diddy, right? Like, I'm sure that there's pressures unbeknownst to me that I cannot possibly pronounce, you know, and being Black and rising to that kind of success in a society that tells you that it's impossible, and then you doing it, like what that does to a person's ego, what that does to the probability that they're going to make choices that are more risky rather than safe. The what it tells you overall to your self narrative, like the story tells you that I've overcome all this and maybe I'm untouchable, you know, like I came from the bottom of the bottom and now I'm at this place now, right? Like, you try to tell me that, you know, it's going to be this that brings me down, you know. I think part of that, it's a slippery slope, you know. I'm trying to like maybe withhold a lot of judgment for some of these people, right? Like, I
feel
don't know.
the same way. It's so difficult because on one hand, you get that when a person gets more money, it really just magnetizes who that person is, unless they've done the work on themselves. If you go from one point and you are already this way, just getting money is not going to make you better. It's just going to help you create that life where you are just wrecking chaos in people's lives. It's just the fact of the matter. I think that we in society have forgotten that these are just human beings. They're just human beings. They just happen to have more money, and they've been placed on this pedestal where it's like, oh, they have to be perfect. Absolutely not. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. And if we get that out of our heads, I think for me, what happened with Diddy, it was heartbreaking because he was and still is. I can't take away the history that he's, you know, like he's still Diddy. I refuse to take away what he's done for the culture, but at the same time, I have to. In my research, I've also learned that Diddy has dealt with a lot of the same stuff that many people I know dealt with. So if I know these people who are so much like Diddy, it's like, okay, it makes sense. You know what I mean? It just makes sense to me that he is. It just happens. He's a millionaire, whatever. But he's still like Frank down the street. He's still like, you know, Richard. You know what I mean? He's still like so many men and so many Black males that I know. Jay-Z, DMX. You know, I can name them. It's just they are just like us. They have similar families, you know. So,
and these men come from trauma too.
Yeah, and that's what it is, Chuckie. It really is. I feel like, and not to hold you, I really feel like the trauma that many people have experienced, and just like you said, we don't talk about it, especially in the Black community. What we see now is the trauma just playing out in real life.
Yeah,
it's playing out. So that's my take on it. I've got on a whole tangent because I'm passionate about this.
That's right. It should be.
Understand, like this, these are human beings that went through a lot of stuff, like DMX, Whitney Houston, all of those, like they dealt with some stuff. This party life, the young guy who one of the songs he sings, I think he OD'd, from Chicago. I can't even think of the young guy name. and he's in my playlist. But just listening to his music, you can hear his pain. You can hear the pain if you listen to the music. But I am someone who really enjoys listening to the words. I want to hear the story. I want you to paint the picture for me of what you were going through. And there's some artists out here, they have gone through some things, and these young guys these babies who grew up in the crack epidemic, you can hear it in the drill music. That's what it is. They are talking about my mama was out, my daddy was out. We saw it growing up in the 90s. Now our kids are listening to it, or grandkids are listening to it. What was going on in the 90s? That's all. I'm passionate about this, Chuckie. I really am, because I see it, and just listening, because I love to listen to the music. I can hear these babies are crying. They're hurting, and they just need guidance. We forget that growing, I'm much older. Growing up in the 90s, it was like the wild, wild west. We didn't know what was going on. We just thought, and now these are the repercussions. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Chuckie, you are welcome back anytime. I am going to end this stream, and I got to hop off and take care of some business. I want to, like I had said, I do have a death in the family that we are dealing with right now, everybody. So I am going to be off for a little while we prepare for that. I want to thank you for getting my mind off of everything. I was going to cancel, but then I said, nope, I'm not going to. I'm not, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining me for another episode of the Vet Green Show. Chuckie, you are welcome back anytime. You have a wonderful evening on purpose.
Thank you, Vet. My deepest condolences.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is a Green Links Media production. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the bell to be reminded when we go live.